this an awkward angle to film in? I don't care. I'm going to be starting Anne of Avonlea. I just got all of my Anne of Green Gables books. I made a video all about all of the books, receiving them, unboxing them, talking about the covers, talking about why I'm reading these books, and just all of that good stuff. So if you haven't watched that already, you can do so on my channel. It's the same day as on that first Anne of Green Gables video, and I'm just going to start reading. Yeah, that's way nicer. I got my pen because I annotate my books. I'm ready. What I shouldn't forget is that I always write my name in my books. If you are someone who struggles with the thought of people writing in books, get used to it. Because I will do this every time. Well, that came out looking a lot more crappy than I envisioned it. It turns out holding a phone and writing at the same time is not the best thing to do. I know this lighting is terrible, but I'm so happy that Gilbert is mentioned. At least in the first book, Anne and Gilbert don't speak to each other for like 5 years. But then at the end, they decide to be friends, and it's the sweetest thing. And in Anne with an E, there's like more tension going and more like a rivalry, but also a friendship that is kind of complicated, and feelings start to grow as they do. And it's really sweet. And I love that he is already in there and that they're doing things together. Because in Anne with an E, like, they often would interact with each other, and it would be very obvious that they are on the same page a lot of the times. Whereas in the Anne of Green Gables, the book, she just kind of decides that she doesn't like him. And she doesn't even have a very clear reason other than the carrots thing when he pulls her hair, which, you know, is a dick move. He shouldn't have done that, but, you know, 5 years of not speaking to him seems like excessive. And it's actually really sweet that like halfway through these 5 years, like about 2 years after the first incident, he offers his friendship. He says no and like instantly regrets it. And I love that there's clear evidence already at the beginning of the book that there is something there, that they are friends, that they do things together. Because this is talking about this Avonlea improvement club. I can't even remember what they called it. A lot of people are interested in joining the improvement club group, whatever, but that basically only Anne and Gilbert know what they are wanting to improve, or what the improvements will be that they're going to make. And it is just so sweet. I mean, they're not even actually interacting. We haven't seen a conversation, but it's just sweet to know that, you know, they are talking and they are getting along, and they are on the same page. Because that's what you can definitely read from this. Because what it actually says is, most of the other young folks were willing to go in for anything that meant occasional meetings and consequently some fun. As for what the improvements were to be, nobody had any very clear idea except Anne and Gilbert. They had talked them over and had planned them out until an ideal Avonlea existed in their minds, if nowhere else. So they have their little plans and their little ideas and their little ideal Avonlea. It's just so cute. So I can't wait to see where this is going. It's the next day, and I am going to be reading Anne of Avonlea again. I got 4 chapters in yesterday. This, by the way, is my bookmark. It's a very old picture of Taylor Swift. It came in a teen magazine, a Flemish teen magazine called Joepie. We'll see where this goes. came to this funny passage that I, marked. Can you see that? So I like to annotate my book. I call it annotating, but basically I'm just writing smileys, hearts, and underlining things. So it's not very intellectual or anything, it's just things that I like. And this I thought was a little bit funny, made me chuckle. She was also to find that if Barbara ever managed to walk down the aisle without falling over her own or somebody else's feet, the Avonlea scholars wrote the unusual fact up on the porch wall to commemorate it. Which, could you imagine, like, the imagery? I like it so much. I have about 30 pages to go. There was a power outage right now. This is the middle of the day. I was working and I figured that this would be the perfect time to finish this book. I hope that the power comes on quickly because I need to work. Does anyone else have a special pen that they use to write in books? I have a special one that I keep here in my little pouch. Here we go. I just finished reading Anne of Avonlea and I loved the ending. It was so sweet, so good. I will be back with more thoughts, but for now, I really want to capture this moment of me loving the ending. I've marked a whole paragraph. Ta-da, there we go. It is beautiful. I finished Anne of Avonlea and I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. It is very episodic, like the first book, where we just kind of see all kinds of things that happen to Anne and the people that she meets. There isn't really an overarching plot, so this book is really easy to put down, and then when you've kind of forgotten what happened, just pick it up again, because most of the things don't really relate to each other. For example, earlier in this video I talked about the Avonlea Improvement Society, and just kind of halfway through it just stops being mentioned. I really liked all of the characters, all their little quirks. I feel like every character is very unique. There's sometimes very stereotypical characters in this book, but I think that is kind of also what makes this lovely to read. At one point, Marilla and Anne take in these twins called Dora and Davy, I believe. Am I correct in this? Dora is very much like a quiet, reserved, shy girl who doesn't really talk much, and Davy is the polar opposite. He's always getting into trouble. He's just this little 6-year-old kid who just can't help but be a little bit mischievous, and he's really fun in that regard, although he did annoy me sometimes. Also, the character of Miss Lavender I thought was really lovely. She was very unique. She was not like any character that I've ever read about. It is very clear that she is a character that would only appear in a children's book, but I think that added to the charm. Miss Lavender seems to be the idea of a grown-up that kids have. If that makes sense, I can't really explain it, but she is very kind and inviting, but she's also at the same time very isolated. Like, she doesn't really have any grown-up friends or anything, and I feel like as a kid you just kind of see adults as like these figures that just kind of exist on their own. There were some things in this book that made me realize that this is over 100 years old. Anne is a teacher along with Gilbert and Jane, and at one point they were talking about how they earn the respect of their pupils, and Jane is advocating for corporal punishment, which of course you shouldn't do. Please do not punish kids in a physical way like that. And Gilbert is kind of like on the fence about it. Like he actually is for it, but he doesn't want Anne to know because she is so against it. But he is actually for it as well, which is so strange to me. Like, was this a normal thing in the 1900s? I guess. But that was kind of alienating. And Anne is very adamant to not, you know, physically punish her kids. And at one point she does. She is like really torn up about it. She really doesn't feel good about it. But it does have positive outcomes. Like this kid that she punished had been disobedient this whole time, did not respect her because she was just a sweet little girl. She just kind of wanted to talk to the kids. Much more like how we would teach kids now. Like constructively talk to them and make sure that they understand that what they did was wrong and that they shouldn't do it anymore. So she is very modern in that sort of sense, and that kid just does not like it. He doesn't trust her, he doesn't respect her, he thinks that she is weak, so to speak. And when she does finally physically punish him, he completely changes. He suddenly does everything that she says. He's really well behaved in class, and everyone around her is also like very proud that she finally did this, which was very strange to read. So just bear in mind, if you're going to read this, that this happens, and that Anne herself is reflective on it and like doesn't really, you know, like that she did it, but everyone around her is like almost congratulating her. Not almost, they are congratulating her about it, which is really difficult to read, I would say. I didn't like that. There were also some other little things that made it obvious that this is a book that was written 100 years ago, and there are some like misogynistic undertones in this book, I would say. It's just something to keep in mind when reading this, that some things that are being said in here are not what we would say today, or how we would view the world today. So if you can just kind of keep that in mind as you're reading and not like blur it out, so to speak, but just kind of accept it for what it is, realize that this is wrong, and keep on going. It is a very enjoyable book. I would have liked to see a little bit more of Diana, but we did see a lot of Gilbert. One of the motifs that I've noticed in this book is that Gilbert very often just kind of passes by in the distance. There are so many examples of Anne just noticing Gilbert in the distance, which I think is actually pretty sweet foreshadowing. Also, at one point, Anne is talking about her ideal man and how that her ideal man is the opposite of Gilbert, and then she goes on to say like, but still, Gilbert's kind of cute, and it's actually really sweet. Nothing has happened between them yet, but I'm hoping that in the next book we will see some Anne and Gilbert quality time. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed reading this. It's just a casual read. I think I enjoyed Anne of Green Gables a tad bit more, but this is definitely a solid read if you want to go through all of them. Just kind of have a good time. You don't have to think too much about what is happening, you know, other than keep in mind that this was 100 years ago and some things that are being said aren't widely accepted now, thankfully. I hope that you enjoyed this reading vlog. I'm trying to improve my reading vlog skills. I hope that this was okay for you. Any and all tips and critiques that you have, leave them down in the comments. If there's anything that you liked about this video or disliked, let me know and I can always learn from it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!